Okay, so you downloaded the app, you set up your categories, you linked your bank account. And for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 if you were really motivated, you actually used it. Then life happened. You missed a few days of logging. The app sent you a notification you ignored. And eventually, you just stopped opening it altogether. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. Millions of Americans download budgeting apps every year, and the overwhelming majority quit within the first month. So today we are going to talk about why that keeps happening, and more importantly, what actually works instead. Before we get into it, if you caught last week's video on emergency funds and how much you really need, this episode builds on that foundation. If you missed it, go check it out after this one. Let's start with why budgeting apps fail. Because the problem is not you. The problem is how these tools are designed versus how human brains actually work. The first reason is what I call the logging burden. Most budgeting apps require you to do something every single day. Check in, categorize a transaction, review your spending. That sounds simple, but behavioral science is very clear on this. The more steps a habit requires, the more likely you are to abandon it. When you miss one day, there is a small but real psychological cost to catching up. Miss 3 days, and catching up feels like a chore. Miss a week, and the gap between where the app thinks you are and where you actually are becomes so overwhelming that starting over feels easier than fixing it. Except, most people do not start over. They just quit. The second reason is that these apps create an illusion of progress. Filling in categories, connecting accounts, setting spending limits, all of that feels productive. It feels like budgeting, but none of it actually changes your behavior. You can have the most beautifully organized budget dashboard in the world and still overdraft your checking account, because the act of tracking money is not the same as the act of managing it. The app gave you a scoreboard. It never taught you how to play the game. The third issue is that most budgeting apps are built around restriction. They are essentially telling you no, 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 and no. You went over your dining budget. You exceeded your entertainment limit. You spent too much on gas. When every interaction with a financial tool is a reminder of what you did wrong, you start to associate that tool with negative feelings. And human beings, pretty predictably, avoid things that make them feel bad. It is not a discipline problem. It is a design problem. The fourth reason is that apps treat every month the same. But real life in America does not work that way. November and December look completely different from March. Back to school in August destroys grocery and clothing budgets. Tax season in April is its own financial event. A rigid monthly system that does not adapt to the actual rhythm of your life is going to fail you at least a few times a year. And each failure chips away at your confidence a little more. So if budgeting apps are broken for most people, what actually works? The first thing that works is automating the decision before you can mess it up. This is called paying yourself first, and it is one of the most well-documented financial strategies that exists. The idea is simple. Before you spend a single dollar, money moves automatically to where it needs to go. Your rent or mortgage, your retirement contribution, your emergency fund, your savings goals. These happen on payday, automatically, before you see the money in your main account. What is left over is yours to spend however you want, no tracking required. You cannot go over budget when the budget enforces itself. The second thing that works is a simple percentage framework instead of line item categories. Instead of assigning a dollar amount to groceries, eating out, gas, subscriptions, clothing, and 30 other things, you work with 3 or 4 big buckets: needs, wants, savings, and debt. You set a rough percentage for each based on your income. A common starting split used by many financial educators is 50% toward needs, 30% toward wants, and 20% towards savings and debt. Now, those percentages might not fit your situation exactly, and that is fine. The point is that you are thinking in terms of big buckets, not line items. This approach survives real life because it is flexible. If you spend a little more on wants one month, you did not blow 17 separate budget categories. You just check whether you stayed inside your wants bucket. The third thing that works is a weekly money check-in instead of daily logging. Pick one day, Sunday evening works well for a lot of people, and spend 10 to 15 minutes looking at your accounts. Not logging every transaction, just looking. How much came in this week? How much went out? Does it feel right? Are there any surprises? This is not about perfection. It is about staying aware. Awareness alone, without any app or system, changes spending behavior. Research consistently shows that people spend less money simply when they check their bank account more frequently. That is it. Just looking. The fourth thing that works is planning for irregular expenses ahead of time. Take a piece of paper or a notes app and list every non-monthly expense you can think of for the year: car registration, holiday gifts, summer travel, back-to-school shopping, annual insurance premiums, home repairs, medical costs. Add them all up and divide by 12. That number is what you should be setting aside every single month into a separate account, sometimes called a sinking fund. When the expense hits, the money is already there. No budget blow-up, no credit card debt, no stress. This one change alone eliminates the most common reason people say their budget failed. The fifth thing that works is lowering friction to the point where there is almost none. The highest performing financial habits are the ones that require the least conscious effort to maintain. That means automating transfers, using a separate account for regular expenses, and building a system where good financial decisions happen by default, not by willpower. Willpower runs out. Systems do not. Here is the bottom line. Budgeting apps are not bad tools. For some people, in some seasons of life, they work great. But they are not the only path, and for most people, they are not the right path. The goal of personal finance is not to have a beautiful spreadsheet. The goal is to make sure your money is going where it actually matters to you, without causing constant stress and guilt along the way. Automate the big stuff, simplify the categories, check in weekly, plan for the irregular, and build a system that runs even when you are tired, busy, or just not in the mood to think about money. That is what works, and none of it requires an app. If this was helpful, hit like and subscribe because we are going deeper on all of this in the coming weeks. See you in the next one.